The PRC throughout Central and South America continues to attempt to use its soft power to gain a foothold. They use direct aid to countries that need it. They also provide funding to universities to get a foothold to create influence.
Having CCP actors purchasing large swaths of land next to military installations is a national security issue, a major one. And I would highlight to the American public, we're not allowed to buy farmland in mainland China or in Russia.
China's cyber activities have been linked to multiple high-profile breaches, including last year's massive compromise of U.S. telecom infrastructure, commonly referred to as Salt Typhoon.
And that's the nation's top intelligence officials sounding the alarm on China during yesterday's House hearing on worldwide threats facing America right now. House Republicans are ready to act against Beijing. Congressman Andy Barr, John Molinar, and Michael McCaul all reintroducing a bill which protects American investors from financing the Chinese Communist Party's military buildup, tech dominance, and human rights abuses. The Fight China Act will establish a comprehensive outbound investment screening regime while creating target restrictions. Joining me now is Kentucky Congressman and House China Select Committee member Andy Barr. Congressman, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
And we've spoken a lot about this issue. We did several documentaries on it here at Fox. I did Underwriting the Enemy, which is streaming right now on Fox Nation, about the Chinese stocks that are traded on U.S. exchanges and how unwitting investors may very well be buying those stocks, looking for gains, and in effect, funding the expansion of our #1 adversary. Tell us about the protections you want to see put in place.
Maria, thank you for highlighting this issue with experts like Roger Robinson. And the problem that you all have outlined is very, very clear. According to the U.S.-China Economic and Security Review Commission, there's approximately $910 billion of direct and indirect American portfolio investment in either mainland China or Hong Kong companies. And about $6.5 billion of that is going directly into Chinese military-industrial complex companies that are either responsible for violating human rights or advancing the Chinese Communist Party's military ambitions. And furthermore, the China Select Committee discovered that around $3 billion of American venture capital investment is going into sensitive technologies like artificial intelligence, quantum computing, semiconductors that are specifically advancing Chinese military ambitions. And so that's the problem. Our bill, the Fight China Act, which is bipartisan and bicameral legislation, tracks President Trump's new national security America First investment memorandum. And thank goodness we have President Trump that is highlighting the threat of allowing Americans to unwittingly finance the Chinese military civil fusion. Our bill does three things. Number one, it authorizes the Trump Treasury Department to impose full blocking sanctions on these Chinese military-industrial complex companies. So not only will U.S. investment not go into these companies, but non-U.S. other foreign investment will not go into these companies. Otherwise, they'll lose access. Those investors would lose access to the American financial system. Secondly, we restrict U.S. investment into certain sensitive technologies, artificial intelligence that could be militarized, quantum computing, semiconductors, hypersonics, and the like. And then the final thing that we do is we require in this legislation a harmonization of all of the various disparate lists, the Pentagon list, the Commerce Entity list, and the lists at Treasury Department, so that additional entities can be added to the sanctions list so that capital does not flow into these entities of national security concern.
Yeah, it's a very good point, because all of these lists, if we've got these lists, that's fine. But if these stocks are still traded on exchanges, the lists mean nothing if the investors don't understand what the point is. I have that America First investment policy memorandum in my hand, and President Trump writes, the PRC is increasingly exploiting U.S. capital to develop and modernize its military, intelligence, and other security apparatuses. Those Chinese companies also raise capital by selling American investors securities that trade on American and foreign public exchanges, lobbying U.S. index providers and funds to include those securities in market offerings. I guess the question is how does this memorandum actually become law? I mean, do you feel you have support from your colleagues to codify all of this into law?
Well, we need to, because this is the right policy, the America First investment policy. Thank goodness that the Trump administration is identifying gaps in the Biden administration's weak policy with respect to China. This national security memorandum now needs to be codified by Congress, and that's what our bill does. The Fight China Act is designed to enact into statutory law President Trump's strong policy here to restrict capital flows into Chinese military-industrial complex companies.
Yeah, I mean,
this is the right policy.
Yeah, it feels right now that we're already in a soft war with China. I mean, with all of this behavior from the CCP undermining America at every turn, from a surveillance balloon to propaganda, intellectual property theft. I mean, you know, fentanyl, COVID. The list is long, and yet these are the two largest economies in the world. So what kind of a disruption would you expect in the U.S. economy should the U.S. get more aggressive against communist China? Because let's face it, the reason that we've got products that are so cheap in the U.S. Is because they're made in China.
Well, the good thing about the president's America First investment policy strategy here is that it targets national security concerns, and it also is designed to enhance American supply chain resiliency on these critical technologies.
Yeah.
And we can continue to entertain cross-border capital flows with allies and partners, but when it comes to our adversary, we shouldn't be financing any of this. Let's face it, the bottom line is that the Chinese Communist Party is engaged in economic and financial warfare. We have not been in the fight on this. And this Trump administration national security memorandum and our Fight China Act to codify it gets us in that fight and deters further Chinese aggression and achieves a financial independence for American investors in ways that protects us, our financial security, and our national security.
Yeah, and these are all very, very important issues. And sometimes I just wish corporate America would understand the national security risks. These are not just economic issues. That's the whole point with tariffs. He wants production and manufacturing in the United States, so we're not dependent on our adversaries, which is a national security issue. Now, I want to get your take on the Trump agenda, because the Congressional Budget Office is warning lawmakers that they're running out of time to do something about the debt limit. If it remains unchanged, the office claims, quote, the government's ability to borrow using established extraordinary measures will probably be exhausted in August or September 2025. The president wants the debt limit increased, and he wants it included in the budget reconciliation bill. Here's the president on this yesterday.
Now we need Congress to pass the largest tax cuts in American history. And I think we can finally say one big, beautiful bill, because everybody's there. I spoke with John Thune, who's doing a terrific job also, and the senators. And we want one big, beautiful bill. Just put it all in that bill, and we'll figure a way to have it passed.
So you all have Easter recess in about 2 weeks, let's say April 11th. Are you going to have some clarity on this reconciliation bill before you go away for Easter?
I think we're making good progress, and Jason Smith, chairman of the Ways and Means Committee, making good progress. Brett Guthrie, chairman of the Energy and Commerce Committee, making great progress on this one big, beautiful bill. And we have to get it done. I think when you step back and take a look at this looming debt limit issue, why is the CBO projecting and pushing that X date out? The reason is because of the good work of DOGE and the Trump administration finally identifying waste, fraud, and abuse and savings that the American taxpayers deserve. And the only reason why we have to raise the debt limit is because the previous Democratic Congress and the previous administration spent like drunken sailors. So we obviously have to avoid a default. But economic growth and these tax cuts are critical to getting our debt crisis under control, because we have to grow our economy so fast that what we owe starts to shrink relative to the overall size of the economy.
Well, look, we see the numbers. We're spending more on the interest on the debt than actually what we're spending on defense. Congressman, we're watching your work on all of this. Thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.